Has the internet ever told you something couldn't be done? That there's no way to make what you're trying to do work, that it's not possible? Yeah, me neither.
I'd say it's a nut job.
All right, so as you've seen in previous videos where we fired this thing up and had it running and all, 2 VRS 750s mounted on here. And I need to go back and find the comments and put them in here. The amount of comments that I've got saying that when I first talked about this project, before I ever done it, saying you can't do that, that won't work. There's no way to make what you're trying to do actually work. Well, what they should be saying is there's not a kit to where you can bolt that onto that car like that. That won't work. They're half right. I'm not picking on anybody, and I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad, because honestly, the VRS carburetor has only been around a couple years, so nobody's probably tried to do this. And there's not a kit that you can buy off the shelf to make all this work. Now, where a lot of people come from is these trick flow intakes, and pretty much any Ford intake is made to mount the carburetors in line. And Ford actually turned around and mounted it backwards, so the linkage was on this side, and they made a crossbar for it. I have all that because originally I was going to run 2 Holley carburetors on here. Now, when I talked about doing this, everybody's nope, won't work. First off, you can't put a double pumper in line because there's not enough space. They sell offset adapters. Well, if you put offset back here and offset back here, well, then it hits the firewall and it hits the distributor. And there still isn't enough space between them because the VRS, the bowls are longer than a Holley. So how can this possibly work? Well, according to the internet, it doesn't. But you've heard this car run, and I'm going to show you exactly how I made this work. It requires a little outside of the box thinking. One of the big battles, but a lot of people face this battle with tunnel rams when the carburetor is mounted sideways, is fuel line for a double pumper. Now, I could have ran AN lines, but I like the old school look of the metal lines. Now, rubber line is not NHRA legal, so I could not run rubber lines. So I bought this line, some AN fittings, convert from AN to 3/8 line, and bit my own lines. And I did add 2 fuel pressure gauges. You don't have to do that. I chose to do that so I can see the fuel pressure on each side, and at a glance know that everything's working the way it's supposed to. Let's walk around to the other side. I've got the throttle linkage off at the moment, and I'll show you how I made this actually work. The problem in trying to do this is kind of twofold. So first off, as I said, Ford and Trick Flow and all these intakes are made to bolt carburetors in line. They're not made to be turned sideways. The Trick Flow intake actually is not even drilled. A lot of tunnel rams are drilled so you can turn them sideways, and that's not a problem. Well, the problem herein lies is it's technically not a tunnel ram. It is, but it's not. It's a tunnel wedge. It's, you know what? I'm not getting into all that, the definitions, everything. Let's just move along and say this intake is only drilled one direction. So then, how do you turn it sideways? Well, people will tell you, and so will the internet tell you, oh, well, they make adapters, turn them sideways. Technically, they do. But I went through a month, yes, a month of digging online, internet forums, calling manufacturers, doing all this stuff. And they do make a adapter to go sideways, but they have the wrong bolt pattern for the intake. The adapters that go sideways have a small, closer to square bolt pattern. That's not going to work with this intake because it's drilled for one bolt pattern. So how do you make all this work? Well, it takes a little bit of finagling. So I've got the throttle linkage off right now. I had to make a little bracket, and I'll show you that in just a second to make throttle linkage work, because that's another huge hurdle to overcome. So I bought these carburetor spacers. These are open spacers, but the tops of these spacers, this is the important part, the tops of these spacers are dual drilled. They have the smaller pattern and the bigger pattern. And then the bottom of them have the normal 4150 pattern. So then those adapters that turn a carburetor sideways will actually bolt to those spacers. So I tapped the spacer and then ran studs through the spacer, or I tapped the spacer and then bolted the adapter to turn it sideways to the spacer, and then the carburetor is bolted to that. And that's how I got them turned sideways. It does require a little finagling, and yes, that is an extra set of gaskets that you have to make sure is on there proper and tight. Now, by the time you are done with said conversion, you end up about 2 inches of spacer under your carburetor. It's not really going to hurt anything if you have the hood clearance. So we bought the spacers and the adapters to turn the carburetor sideways, and now we can bolt the carburetor sideways. The problem now lies in the linkage. The only kits that I could possibly find to work with a sideways mounted carburetor were for the tunnel rams. Now, here lies the problem with that. I have all this stuff taken off right now because I have a bracket that I made. But if you put the normal bracket on here, it's a bar that goes across here, hooks to these 2 bars, and there's supposed to be a part that mounts down here that has a side that has these that go sideways, and that's what makes the throttle linkage go from here to here. The problem is that they're made for tunnel rams. So now, once you put that bracket down there, it's so tall that it almost touches the bar right here, which means there's no space to put that lever in there. So how do I correct that? Well, the way I corrected that was I made a bracket, and it's hanging over there drying right now. I made a bracket to take that bar that mounts this way and flip it upside down and mount it this way. Now it comes from the carburetor down, and now it gives me that space to put the actual linkage in there. If you look at the height on a tunnel ram, see, it's made to mount down here with a little bar, and then this is up here, so you have all this space right here. Well, I don't have this much space. Even with the 2 inches added for the carburetors, I don't have that much space. So I made my bracket that bolts up here and turns upside down. So now instead of it being here with a little nipple sticking up for that cantilever, now it's upside down, that nipple sticks down, and now the cantilever's way down here instead of the cantilever being way up here, which gives me enough space to hook everything up. I'll show you that in just a second. All right, let's take a look at what we got here, and you can kind of understand now. Now the linkage is on here. I had to, so this linkage hooks to the carburetors this way. I had to make a bracket right here because this piece right here that has a little cantilever on it should mount to the intake down here and stick up. When it does that, it puts the cantilever way up here right against this axis here. So it won't work. So I made this bracket that bolts to the spacers there and drops it down. So now it's about a finger thickness off of the intake right here, which in turn makes this cantilever just the right length with these heim joints. And yes, I've got everything loose right now. So, but with these heim joints now, everything can actuate and it works the throttle just perfect and gets wide open throttle, which is, you know, the important part of the whole thing. Very pleased with this. Very pleased with this. That's as wide open as it gets right there. It's all the way back. 4 barrels of fury. You can't see down in there anyway. Now, it's hard to see here, but on the back side of this, there's another lever just like this. It's right there. You can't hardly see it. Now a rod will go from here over to that, and that works the whole throttle linkage. Now, I'm going to be honest and admit the throttle linkage was the hardest part of this whole thing. That is the one thing that just absolutely drove me crazy trying to figure out. Now, I know there's going to be a ton of folks out there that will say, well, they make a kit this, they make this kit this, they make this kit here. Trust me when I say there is no kit on the market that will make this work on a trick flow intake on an FE. They make them for 385 series that will work. They make them for small blocks, big blocks, Mopars, Chevys, but not for an FE. That is the key to this whole thing, is trying to make something that was never designed to work a certain way, work that certain way. You know, go out and learn what you don't know. The message here is, first off, don't let people tell you something can't be done. Anything can be done if you're willing to invest the time and effort into it. Secondly, just because there isn't a kit that you can buy off the shelf doesn't mean it can't be done. It just means nobody's done it yet, or the people that have done it are not sharing the knowledge. And I'm about sharing the knowledge. I want people to understand that things can be done. So now we have a functioning throttle linkage. If you go back to the video where we fired it up and had it running, I had a little string tied to it and I was pulling it with my hand to run it. I didn't have this throttle linkage sorted out yet. I couldn't quite wrap my head around how to make it work. And honestly, the go-to for me was going to be, this is a Ford factory throttle cable off a 300 6-cylinder, off a 91 F-150 with a 300 6-cylinder. And I was going to change the pedal to a cable type and just run a cable out and around, and it would work. It would work. But I've went through so much effort to have these nice heim joint linkages going up the carburetor, this nice axle with bearings in it to work everything. You know, good stuff. And went through the trouble of hard lining the lines with these nice AN fittings. And to me, this may not be the way you see it. To me, just to see a throttle cable throat on it is kind of like the Mona Lisa, and they got down to finishing her lips and decided to draw it with a pencil. You know what I mean? It's like, why? You're right there. Why not just finish this thing? You know what I'm saying? Why not just go ahead and make the extra step here? So now I'm going to tighten everything up, and we're going to have a functioning throttle linkage with nice heim joints. And if you've never felt a throttle with heim joints, once you do, you'll never go back any other way. It's so, it's so right there. It's such a, you touch it kind of feeling. It's not one of those where you got to, mash the throttle. And a lot of times throttle cables are like that. There's a lot of resistance. I like that heim joint feeling because it's one of those where, honestly, they can be so smooth that when you first put your foot over, you hear the motor rev up, you don't even realize you're touching the gas. I like that. I like that hair trigger on that throttle. So I went through the extra effort to make this function. There you have it. I'm still going to say we have the first dual VRS fed FE powered Ford Galaxy. Any FE motor for that matter. This is not an out of the box thing. Why go through this much trouble? Why go through this much trouble when I could have bought a pair of new off the shelf Holley carburetors that would have bolted in line like they were supposed to. All the linkage would have worked. Fuel lines would have been simple. Ford even done them from the factory, so you could buy repopped Ford crossover bars, Ford fuel logs. You could have bought all that stuff repopped, and everything would have been simple. Tighten the bolts down and drive off and be done. So why did I go through this much effort and this much planning and honestly some fabrication and all that to run this setup? Well, that honestly comes down to those carburetors. Those carburetors are so freaking phenomenal. If you have not ran a VRS carburetor, you don't understand it. You just don't understand it. It's like the middle school boy who's never kissed a girl and the high school boys is running around chasing girls and you don't understand it. Well, there it is. I got my first kiss right there. And then I can't stop chasing it. I now own 4 of these carburetors. I cannot stress how out of the box amazing these carburetors are. Our friends over at Unity Motorsports on YouTube, Andy there, he done back-to-back dyno tests, real life data, put an engine on a dyno, and they bolted carburetor after carburetor after carburetor after carburetor to that same engine. These carburetors made not astronomically more power. I'm not talking 2 or 3 horsepower. I'm thinking it was like 15, 20 more horsepower. It was amazing at the difference in these. I don't remember the exact number. Don't quote me on that. You have to go watch his video to see that. It's been a little while. But I did a video a while back when I first got my first one, and I was skeptical because I'm a Holley guy. And I'll go into that story in a minute, but I'm a Holley guy. So I got my first one. That thing sit on my desk in my office for about 3 or 4 months in the box. I never took it out, never touched it because I'm like, it's just another carburetor, right? I took it out of the box and I started bolting it on random vehicles I had laying around here. We bolted on the wagon, the Cougar. I don't remember if we done a ramp truck or not. I think we just done the wagon and the Cougar. And went down the road. We done, I made a pass with a draggy on the road and throttle response and all that. Anything. Didn't matter what the vehicle was or how the motor was built. Anything improved with these carburetors. And it just drove me down this wormhole to where I had to know, what would this car do if it had a pair of those instead of a pair of Holleys? So it led to It led to this mind-numbing wormhole that I went down to make these carburetors fit on this intake, on this engine, just because I have to know what these will do. I know this engine's going to eat. I know it is. I know this thing's going to run faster than this car's ever been, may even be faster than the car's actually safe to go. We'll visit that wormhole when we get to it. But fed by a pair of these, I am absolutely convinced that this is going to be an absolute monster. Now, you may not be in on the secret sauce yet. You may not like these things. You may not want to try them. What I'm telling you is this. If you're happy with a setup you have, never buy a set of these, because these will destroy your life. Once you buy a set, you got to have them. I think they put crack cocaine on the casing or something. I don't know. I just got to have another one. You just got to keep chasing these things. They're just, ugh. So yes, now I have 4 of them. And I'll probably have another one before long, because the ramp truck's probably getting one as well. Currently, they make these in a 650, 750, and an 850. The 750 has annular boosters, which I absolutely am in love with. I do believe that they either just came out with, they released at PRI, or they're about to come out with, somewhere in the ropes here is an E85 version. It may not be on the market yet, but somewhere in the works there is an E85 version of this for you E85 guys. I don't even want to think about a pair of E85 carburetors on here, although I'm already set up for them now. Listen, like I said, I was a diehard Holley guy. You can tell that by the amount of vehicles I had around here, and every one of them had a Holley carburetor on them. If it had anything other than a Holley, it got taken off and a Holley put on. I have Holley carburetors sitting around because I was diehard bought into the Holley carburetor. Now listen, that may not be your favorite carburetor, and I understand that. For me, it's just like your favorite hunting rifle. Whatever caliber that may be, there's a lot of calibers out there, and everybody has their favorite. But when you go up to the gun cabinet and that one you put your hands on and pull out, just because you know what's going to happen every time you squeeze the trigger, that's the way I feel about a Holley carburetor. I ran them because I understood them. I knew how they worked. I knew how they operated. And quite honestly, I knew what to expect every time I put one on. So I was reluctant to make the leap. Those, I hate to say it, those have made me an Edelbrock guy. Now you see the world's first dual VRS powered FE in a Ford Galaxy. I'm going to say the world's first dual VRS powered FE. I hadn't seen another one. If you know where one is, let me know, but I have not seen another one yet. And quite honestly, because it's not the easiest thing to do, but it is worth the effort. It's well worth the effort. I am very pleased at how this come out. I'm actually very pleased at the look, although I really wanted the 70s gold Mylodon stuff, kind of like I have hanging up over there. But they don't make them for an FE. So this is some cheesy VHT gold paint to try to give it that cool retro look. It works. Silver and gold, silver and gold. Listen, guys, thank you for watching so much. I greatly appreciate it. I'm actually going to do a video at the end of this weekend, that I've not really tried to do before. So hopefully you guys will tune in and like it. We're taking the family on a vacation. We hadn't done that in a long time. And we're going to do a unique thing. I'm not sure how it's going to work out. We're going to film it. So you're going to get to come along and see the tomfoolery of all of us together. Hey, guys, thank you so much for watching, subscribing, and following along. I can't thank you enough. The growth the channel has seen has been astronomical, and it's because of you. This channel belongs to you guys. You guys drive this channel. You watch it, you support it, and we're able to make content because of it. Greatly appreciate everything you do. Remember, not just my channel, but any YouTuber that you like, well, we kind of get paid based off of how you guys watch. So January is always a slow month for YouTube, for everybody across the board. So if you have a favorite YouTuber, go watch one of their videos. Help them out in the month of January to kind of get over that slump that every YouTuber faces in January. Don't know why, but January is always that kind of month. Oh, God bless you guys. Please remember to like and subscribe. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think of the process here, or the dual VRS powered FE. We really, really, really wanted to go test it this past Sunday, but we had that little wintry weather come through, and there was some snow and ice, and the track decided not to have any testing this past weekend. Understandable. I mean, these are not exactly made to make passes in ice. Even an ignorant fool like me that sometimes does sketchy stuff won't make a pass in that kind of weather. So this weekend we got some things going on, but hey, the following weekend maybe we can take this thing out and finally find out what this engine will do. I just got to get the rod that'll go from the pedal to the linkage out there now. Not a big deal. I actually had one on this, but when I put that VRS setup on the Cougar and I knew I was going to duals on this one, I took the rod and all off of this one and put on the Cougar with that little nitrous powered small block. So just got to get on the old interwebs and order another one. Those are pretty standard. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you. To Him be the glory. I hope the Lord blesses you more today than He did yesterday. Guys, we will see you on the next one.
I'd say he's a nut job.